Hello and welcome to BioRules video lessons. So today we are going to be talking about the angiosperms, the flowering plants. But before, a quick revision. So we saw that the land plants, they all have in common the differentiation. So all of them, the bryophytes, the felicinophytes, coniferophytes, and now the angiospermatophytes all have differentiated tissues. We also saw the evolution of vascularization. So the felicinophytes, the coniferophytes, and on, they all have vascularization. So they have water conducting tissues. And now we saw that the evolution of the seeds, that the coniferophytes and the flowering plants, they are all going to be having seeds, very important structure that have evolved. And what the angiosperms are going to be having different is going to be the flowers with the seeds enclosed in fruits. So fruits and flowers are the novelty in the angiosperms. So angiosperms, flowering plants, and they are so abundant, we see flowers everywhere. So let's take a look on this structure. So angiosperms, they have flowers, as we have discussed. And what's the function of the flower? Animal attraction. Basically, the flowers are the structure where the sexual reproduction will take place. And nowadays, most of the flowers, they serve to attract animals, especially to attract insects in order to do pollination, to make the insects to carry pollen from one flower to the other. That's how the flowering plants, they have sex. And this comes a quite curiosity about the relationship between insects and flowering plants. If we take a look on the history of plants, we can see that around 150 million years ago, actually a little bit more, but the angiosperms, they showed up, but they start becoming very, very, very abundant, very, very important, and more important than any other group around 100 million years ago. So if we take a look here, this is the evolution of the land plants, and we have over here the evolution of the flowering plants, which branch from the gymnosperms. So now we have flower that was about 250 million years ago, but only quite recently, 100 million years ago, that the flowering plants became important in the plant scenario. So if we take a look on the evolution of the pollinating insects, we'll see that 101 million years ago, these are bees, these here are Lepidoptera, they exploded around the same time. So they radiated around the same time. So basically, by the time that the flowering plants, they exploded, we have the flowering plants here becoming more and more and more and more abundant. This happening around 120 million years ago. We have also around the same time the insects becoming more and more and more important. Both of them are now the most important group into their kingdom. The angiosperms are the most important group of plants, and the insects are the most numerous, more abundant, more diverse group of animals. So they evolved quite together. So let's take a look on this structure that allowed all of this to happen, the flower. So we'll start the flower with a little stem. It's a little knob that carries nutrients to the flower like it would take to a leaf. And we are going to have, just in the bottom of the flower, this structure called sepal. Don't confuse that with petal. The sepals are green and they are hard, and they have a very important function, which is to protect the flower structures when the flower is a bud, when the flower is closed. So we have then here the petals. The petals are usually the attractive ones, the ones that are colorful and they are delicate. So when there's a bud, the petals are just coiled inside the sepals that protect them. In the very middle of the flower, we may have the female structure, which is going to be consistent of a stigma. It's the place where the pollen is going to be hitting. A style that places the stigma in the right height to receive the pollen, and we also conduct the pollen tube until inside there of the ovary, and we have the ovary. This structure together, they are going to behave in making the pistil or the carpellum also known as the female part of the plant. Plants that are hermaphrodites, they will also have over there the male structure. And the male structure, they are much simpler. They are going to be consistent of a filament or a fillet that places the male structure into the right place for them to dirt the pollinators that are going to be coming to eat the nectar. And we are going to be having the anther. Yes, it's the same name that we had before. The antherozoid, the anther, is the male part that's going to be producing pollen. Both of them together is going to be called stamen. Bear in mind that flowers in the angiosperms, they may be hermaphrodites, meaning that they have male and female in the same flower, or they may have different genders. You may have a female flower and a male flower, and that varies, that depends on the group, that depends on the species. Just let's remember here, this is the male reproductive structure. So here we have a pretty drawing for you to see, and we have a very nice one here where all those structures are in a typical animal pollinated flower. Okay, so then what about the fruits? What's the idea of fruits? Fruits are quite important. We like them, we love them, we eat them, but the fruits, they have a very important role into the development of the plants. They hold and they protect the seeds. So they are going to be making the seeds to be enclosed into a nice shelter, but they also helps in the dispersion of the seeds. When you eat a fruit and you swallow the seeds, later on when you go to the toilet, you have just carried the seeds away. So birds do that nicely, or many other mammals, they eat the fruit, they swallow the seeds, they carry the seeds away. Okay, so usually the seeds are dispersed by animals, but there are alternatives. There are some, for example, that are dispersed by the wind. There are seeds that will grow inside fruits, that the fruits open and they let the wind to take it on and on. Okay, and there are other strategies. We are going to have an entire class about that later to show you how the fruit and the seeds can get dispersed, they can get taken away from the place where the mother plant is. Okay, so how the fruits develop? Oh, let's go back to the flower that we had there before. So the flowers are going to be pollinated, and once the flower is pollinated and the little pollen comes here, grows over there and fecundates there, then the flower starts wilting and the ovary grows. So what we see as the fruit is actually an enlarged ovary over here. And when we cut it, like we are cutting this apple over here, what we have is the stem. It still has a little leaf over there, but what we'll have over here is the ovary that have just enlarged, and it contains the seeds inside. Now, this apple is ready for a deer to come and eat it, and then, pull the seeds away in another place. And now it's time for exercising. If you read the QR code with your cell phone, or if you type the link that's below itempool.com/dafpath/c/that code over there, you're going to be able to answer a few questions about this topic. Okay, so take your time, do some exercise, have fun.